Rodgers and Hammerstein's The King and I is the most sumptuous musical of them all. One of the great classic shows from the golden age of Broadway. It boasts one of the finest scores ever written. It opens on the deck of a ship as it snakes upriver at dusk, heading for a glimmering royal palace in 19th century Siam. No version of the show has managed to lay on a feast for the eyes quite like The King and I, which will be playing in the Congress Theatre in Eastbourne and the Lowry in Salford, ahead of a limited season for 6 weeks only at London's Dominion Theatre in January 2024. The production has already enjoyed record-breaking runs on Broadway and at the London Palladium, with an internationally renowned creative team headed by the multi-award-winning director Bartlett Sher, whose previous hit productions include My Fair Lady, To Kill a Mockingbird, and South Pacific. Critics in New York and London are in agreement that this is the definitive version. I doubt I'll see a better production in my lifetime, said the Wall Street Journal when it opened at the Lincoln Center in 2015. Breathtaking, exquisite, remarkable, agreed the New York Times. After winning 4 Tony Awards, it first arrived on these shores in 2018 to another chorus of cheers and an Olivier Award. The Daily Mail left the London Palladium on a bright cloud of music. Looks and sounds ravishing, said the Daily Telegraph, while the Financial Times found it simply spellbinding. The King and I makes its highly anticipated return to the West End after a 5-month UK tour, with 2 new stars in the lead roles, famously occupied by many before them. Broadway and film actor Darren Lee, who plays the King of Siam, and Helen George, who of course we all know from Call the Midwife, returns to the stage after many years to play Anna Leon Owens, a widow from Victorian England who has travelled to Bangkok to teach English to the King's many children. And I'm delighted to say, as you can see, that Helen is with me now. Hello, Helen.
Hello.
This show, as I've said, you've not been on stage in a long time. What was it about this production that lured you, and this show that lured you back?
Well, I haven't done a musical for years. I've done lots of plays over the years, but coming to a musical, and I think I knew I wanted to do one because this is what I trained in originally, but it was finding the right one. And I think what I found with the musicals I was being offered were, they were sort of, the roles being offered, they were kind of approximations of Trixie. They were kind of the blonde cameo part that was kind of funny, and, you know, she wore hot pants or whatever. It was those sort of parts that I was being offered. And I think this was the first sort of fully fleshed out, brilliant lead that I was offered, that I just couldn't turn down, and paired with Bart's amazing direction and this fantastic version of it, which I think what's fantastic about this role is there's 2 Annas. There's the Anna that wrote the book that actually went to Siam, and then there's this character which she created for herself, which was basically her life, which, you know, she then sort of embodied. But she'd never been to Wales. She wasn't from Wales. They think that her mother was in service, potentially, you know, a housekeeper or something. They think she was possibly of Anglo-Asian origination, culturally. She was married to a sort of clerk. She wasn't married to an officer. She was, you know, she came from sort of nothing and invented this character for herself, and then pursued a career. She was a widow. There was a lot of death around her. I think within a few years, her father, mother, she had some children that died as well, potentially. So she created this amazing part for herself to play, and then wrote a book about it. And, you know, the rest is history. Here we are. But I think every night when I go on stage, because I did the first leg of this tour, I think about the Anna that she actually wanted to be, and I sort of, in my head, sort of marry the two and embody the sort of dream of Anna, because that was her wish. That's how she wanted to be remembered. And I think Rodgers and Hammerstein wrote this incredible script. And, you know, some of these scenes are 15 pages long, which rarely happens in modern musical theatre, in many musicals, and yet they hold. And when we were on tour with it, you couldn't hear a pin drop in, you know, so many of the scenes, and yet they have all these someone said bangers, like amazing tunes in this musical, one after the other, that you can't believe are all in just one musical, but with the foundation of the script. And I think that's what drew me to this, because it's a play with music. You know, there's nothing fluffy about it. It's completely, you know, it's so depthful, it's so insightful. The writing is so sharp and witty and so modern. You know, this was written in the 50s about a Victorian woman, and yet it, you know, someone said to me, one of my friends came to see it and said, God, it just feels so modern, because it could be a modern tale, and the language is so fresh, even though it was written years ago.
Talking of the 50s.
Teaching for a few months now in the palace. But I think this is the first moment when she really breaks down the divide between the English teacher and the children, and they really become comfortable with her. And I think it's the first time that they truly welcome her into their community.
Great, looking forward to it. So this is Helen George and some of the cast of The King and I, smaller members, and you need to hand me your microphone now.
I think the King is very progressive in that way. I think what's interesting is that, you know, a mirror being shown to a Western society. We have Western people funny, which is, you know, these wives really hitting us hard with what we've done in our past. And I think, you know, it's a necessary political stance, but what's so brilliant is it's summed up in a family show. It's a bit like Call the Midwife in that sense. You know, it's very political, yet it's a wonderful show to watch at Christmas. And I think the adults will take in what they need to, and the children will enjoy the songs and the dresses. You know, it's kind of the perfect combination.
There is...
So it's, you know, I think it's of course it's what should be happening, and I hope the audiences start reflecting that diversity as well.
I mean, is it historically accurate for me to say it's unusual, because obviously the Lion King's been with us for a long time, but you've been with this show.
And no, I suppose it was terrifying in a way to sort of do something seemingly new, although, you know, I did train and I have done a few musicals, but a long time ago. And I was more excited about it by the end of it. And because I had such an amazing team with Trafalgar who believed in me and sort of, you know, really spurred me on, gave me the confidence to do this. And I think if this had been a sort of, because the script is so good, I think because the character's so strong and the story's so strong, the narrative is what I'm interested in. So that drove everything else, and the singing is almost, you know, it's such a big part of the show, but it's almost secular to the character and to the narrative.
What about the dancing?
The dancing, well, luckily it's only just a small polka, so we're fine there.
There aren't enough hours in the day.
I get up quite early, to be fair. Yes, it's tough. And I hope you ask fathers that question as well. But yes, it's tough. I have a lot of support around me, but aren't I lucky?
Any more questions? Yes?
I think, shall we dance? Because the spoken introduction into the swell of the song is so wonderful, and it's just so classically Rodgers and Hammerstein. I love that, and I think that's such a sort of, it's the peak of the show, and then what comes from that dance is sheer destruction, which I love. Oh God, that made me sound like a sadist. I didn't know that. It is. I'm very good at short-term memory when I'm doing TV, because you learn and dispose. And I think remembering things for a long period of time, particularly a show this length, and doing it every single day, that's an art form in itself. But I just put a different hat on when I'm doing theatre.
So The King and I will be running at the Dominion Theatre in the West End from next year. Just want to say thank you for watching this video. Don't forget to leave a like, comment and subscribe, and I'll see you all in this video. You can follow me on socials at tim.theatre.co.uk. If you're doing an event, email tim.theatre@gmail.com. Thank you.